What are some of your earliest memories of just farming in general?
Well, now, there's one thing that I only remember because I was told that it happened. My mother and daddy was digging, I think it's sweet potatoes. And I was 2 years old. That's what they tell me. And daddy told me to go get a sack, you know, it'd been a grass sack or a burlap, you know, to put some more taters in. And they said, here in this moment, here I come with a sack, and they wasn't expecting me to do it, you know, at that time. But now, you know, I have no memory of that. But I do remember in about 1949, Daddy got his first tractor, a little brand new 1949 Ford, and turning, plowing, disc tar, and I believe a subsoiler maybe, and a bog har they called it. But when I was 7, would have been what, next year, about 1950 in the summertime, I was driving that tractor, not really out of what it was. He would hook it to the wagon or the trailer, and he'd hook that hay loader behind of it, which was a big old, it picked up the hay and took it up and dumped it on the trailer, and then he packed it around. My job was to keep that tractor straddle that windrow, you know, and go real slow and while all that was happening. And then if I needed to stop, I had to stand up and put all the weight on that clutch to get it to go down. But that was my job for the next few years, was to do in the hay business. But finally, well, of course, he grew a lot of tobacco and corn, had cattle and a few hogs and some chickens. But finally, when I got about 18 or 20, I started growing patches of tobacco here in the community on my own, renting other people's allotments and all that. And finally, I got up to where I was growing 10 or 15 acres of tobacco plus my job. I guess then I was trying to compete with the Ray boys. You know, they were some of the best farmers in the country and grew tobacco, all kinds of it. In fact, they was one of the last ones to quit, I guess, here in the county. What happened, you know, they quit having that government price support, and you had to have a contract with one of the tobacco companies to buy your tobacco that you grew before you grew it. And that worked fairly well, except that those companies, they didn't want to pay you much for your tobacco. In fact, even right now, there's people growing tobacco. Not around here, but they are other places. Tobaccos are bringing about $2 a pound now, I understand. Well, it was bringing that much 20-something years ago. And cost of fertilizer and everything, all the inputs have skyrocketed. And now it's just beyond me how you make any money growing tobacco now. You didn't get rich back then, but that's the way a lot of things have gone. We quit growing tobacco in 1999 when Tyson was about 3 years old. I wish we could have grown it a few more years so that he could have got a taste of it. You know, all that good hard work. And those big green hornworms that like to aggravate you, you know, and eat your tobacco leaves up, you know, take your part of your profit. Them holes they make in those leaves don't weigh much.
Right. From then to now, maybe it's not much at all. I mean, other than machinery, I guess. What's been some of the biggest changes from 7-year-old to now that have been kind of astonishing with some of this stuff?
Well, you know, used to we'd have to set tobacco out by hand we'd have a stick, the end of a baseball bat made a good stick. You know, it had that round ball on the end, and you have it about so long and sharpen the end. But you know, that's slow going. And in fact, they had these other metal tobacco setter things. You could set tobacco plants or other kind of plants as well. But it had a compartment there for water, and then you'd have somebody to operate the little machine there with a trigger on it that puts some water in it. You drop a plank down one hole, and then when they opened it up, it'd water it, and then you'd go about 16 inches forward and put in another one. But usually somebody'd have to come along behind and capping or dirt up around the plant. Now that's slow going. Now when we got a machine, when I wasn't much, 10 or 11, I guess, we bought a machine that fit on the back of a 3-point hitch on the tractor, on that very tractor that Daddy bought in '49. And I drove the tractor then to set tobacco, and Daddy and his brother they sat back there on that setter and had a tray in front of them full of plants, and each one of them would put every other plant, you know, in the ground. And now that was a big improvement. And then when Daddy in about 60 or 61 bought him a new International square baler. That way you didn't have to use pitchforks forking that hay around. Gosh, that's work. And then now, you know, you've got the round balers. Now that's really taking the work out of it. You know, the square bales, you've got to go out there and load them by hand unless you've got one of those accumulators, which we never did have one. But the hauling square bales and stacking them in a barn, that's hard, hot work too. But this other way, the round baler, that's the way to go, you know. Yeah, you mow it, you ted it, you rake it and roll it, and use your tractor in the front end, load it and put it in the barn, and there's just no real hard work to it. But you still get tired doing it.
For someone who's so busy just with your, you know, career, why did you continue to also, on top of that, just farm all those years too?
Well, a lot of times, you know, school teachers didn't make a whole lot of money. And it's kind of a second job to, like a lot of other people having to do now with inflation and all that. But when I first started teaching in 1963, my check was $315 a month. That was before deductions. I think I actually brought home about $270 something. Things have changed a little. Of course, I'd have made a little more if I'd had my degree at that time, you know. So when I did get my degree in '74, now my salary went up quite a bit, you know, with that degree. And then about 2 years later, the time I got that master's in '45, I saw another jump. And then when I got elected superintendent, it about doubled. I could own a car then.
Yeah.
Or a better one.
Yeah. You've been tobacco farming and all that. What kind of farming are you really just doing now?
Right now, it's all hay and cattle. We just don't do anything else. It's maybe a little gardening, you know.
How many acres you got farming these days?
Well, I think I own about 150 acres, but we're farming probably 400 or something. We've got a lot of farms or places rented that we do mostly hay and cow pasture on. But just a small operation.
Do you ever see you slowing down any at all with any of this?
No, in fact, I've mowed more hay the past 2 years than any other 2 years in my life. And we just leave the mowing machine on it all summer. Used to, you'd have to take the mowing machine off, put something else on that tractor, and then next time you get to mow, you had to put that machine back on. And that's a darn job, putting that mowing machine on and off. Worse putting it on than taking it off, but we got enough tractors now to where we can have one to do all the mowing and use the others to rake and bale with, you know. So it works out a whole lot better. As I get older, I don't enjoy putting implements on and off. But if I can just jump in the tractor and go mow hay, that's a plus.
Do you think if it wasn't for farming, you would have been able to retire when you did? I mean, what do you think you'd be doing if you wasn't a farmer?
Well, I'd probably be dead. You know, they tell me that if you have been working all your life and you get 60 or 65 and you retire and you go home and sit down, you don't last long, you just die. So I retired from the school system. I was 61, maybe a half. So then I started on this school board deal, and which it's been a adventure, I guess you'd say. I've enjoyed it, most of it. There's always some things you don't enjoy, but you have to take a little bad with the good.
What's harder, wrangling students and adults or wrangling cattle?
Students are harder, because them cattle, you can hit them over the head with a stick if you need to, or touch them with a hot stick. Children get, and especially parents, they don't appreciate that.
You know, my brother farms, and I mean, there's still a good amount of farmers around here, but what's it been like to maybe, it seems like there's not as many anymore. I guess what's it been like to kind of see that change?
Well, you know, land is getting so expensive, you can't, a young man can't afford a farm. About the only way he can afford one is if he marries a girl that her father's got a nice farm, and it helps if she don't have any siblings, you know. So that you inherit the farm like that. But being able to buy one, you just about have to get you an old tractor and a few pieces of equipment and rent or lease land from somebody else that's maybe reached the age where they don't want to fool with it anymore. Get your foot in the door that way. That'll work, and then you can farm as long as the money lasts. I think I heard a story one time. This fellow, I think he'd won a lottery, and asked him what he was going to do. He said, well, he was a farmer. He said, well, I'm just going to keep farming as long as, or until the money runs out. So, you know, in my case, it helps to have a little retirement so that you can continue farming.